Alright, let's get started. With the first game, we have the Redwoods and the Cannons. Redwoods had Pennell as the major guy, 3 goals, 1 assist. I think that he's definitely a fantasy starter next week. Did only better in the second game. Jones did better than I usually like to admit. While I don't like him on the field wise, fantasy wise, he definitely produced. And then a tie for third, we have Cav, Lee, and Henningberg. Ryan Lee is definitely someone that we need to pick up. I didn't expect him to play. I didn't notice that Henningberg and Ryder Garnsey were both going to be transferred to midfield, and Lee was going to start down low. Cav, Lee, and Henningberg all had 2 goals and an assist. Redwood's offense looks much more viable than usual and a little bit more consistent through 2 games. And obviously, Perkovic had his 2 goal. So that's more or less the offense for that game. Defensively, it was really just Garrett Epple for that game. 3 calls, turnovers, 2 ground balls, pretty decent numbers. Face-off wise, I kind of saw it coming. TD early in, 78%, absolutely outrageous. Just fucking murk TK on the face-off dot. And then Tim Troutner, 19 saves, 11 goals against. Not stellar numbers, but very good. And then on the other side, someone who I thought was going to do better this season, didn't expect him to blow up like he did that first game, is Paul Rabel. 3 goals, 1 assist. And then next we have Ryan Drenner, Lyle Thompson, and Q. Q is someone who I also think that we need to pick up. 2 goals and assist. Same with Drenner and Thompson. Thompson had 2 quick goals and then kind of vacated his scene. Much better in the second game to be more consistent throughout the entire contest. So I think that you can only see him getting a little bit better from there on. And defensively wise, Brody Merrill is definitely an ad if you don't have him already. An absolute fucking ground ball machine. Same thing for Reese Eddy. Garland on that third trio, 2 calls, turnovers, and 3 ground balls. Also had 1 point. And Goodrich, if you're looking for a short stick, 2 calls, turnovers, 2 ground balls. Defensively wise, the Cannons, I don't know if it was because they didn't play a whole lot of offensive possessions, I should say, or if it was just that their defense was just looking really good. But overall, including even in the in goal with 21 saves, 12 goals against, Nick Morocco took the reins and really started off super strong. So good looks out of both of these teams. Look for them to be competitive down the road. Next, we have Whips and Chaos, a rematch from last year. Zed Williams with 4 goals, Chaney with a goal and an assist. Not much from Rambo, who you'd probably want to see from, but those were really the 2 powerhouses out of this game. And then Matt Abbott, someone who I didn't really expect to play all too much. 2 calls, turnovers, and 5 ground balls. And Michael Earnhardt, obviously, like everyone knows, he was going to have a ton of ground balls that game, 8 of them, and 1 calls turnover. And then Nards, 73%. I'm just chewing your ear off at this point. On the other side, we have the Chaos. Westberg, 3 goals. Didn't really see that coming, but good to see him have a hat trick. Dane Smith, 2 goals and assist. Kind of saw that one. I'm a huge Dane Smith fan. Josh Byrne with a goal and 2 assists. Good to see him participate in the offense. I like Josh Byrne. And then defensively wise, Johnny Surdick and Jared Newman, both 3 calls, turnovers, and 2 ground balls. They were really the staple of that defense. And Adler, 30%. I mean, you're going up against Joe Nardella, so it's kind of hard to really gauge where he's at off of that one contest. And then, as always, Blaze Reardon fucking tore it up in net. 19 saves, 12 goals against. The Archers and Atlas. Not much going on for the Atlas. We'll get through this one real quick. Crawley, a goal and a 2-pointer. That was pretty much their entire offense. Brent Adams had 2 ground balls, 2 calls, turnovers. Good to see that from Brent Adams. Tucker Durkin, 1 calls, turnover, 3 ground balls. And Trevor Baptiste, 64% from the face-off dot. Those 4 guys were the highlight of the Atlas. Everyone else, not the greatest day for the Atlas. Archers, on the other hand, Mazzone and Ratliff both had 4 points. And then after that, it was like, who do you want on your team? We had 3 guys with 3 points. And Mick Namara, Grant Ament, and Connor Fields all had 3 points. And then after that, I think there were 4 or 5 guys with 2 points. Stephen Kelly with 2 calls turnovers did all right at the faceoff dot. Nothing crazy, kind of what I expected. Scott Ratliff, 2 calls turnovers, 2 ground balls. So he's like I knew, he's going to produce offensively and defensively. He's a fucking powerhouse for that team. Graham Hosick was a new addition for their defensive side. He has really good numbers. 1 calls turnover, 4 ground balls. Hosick is definitely a guy to pick up. He's a good-looking individual on the lacrosse field. And then finally, man, fucking Adam Gittleman is the sole provider of goaltending for the Archers. 17 saves, 4 goals against. I've been fucking preaching to the choir on this one, man. I mean, I was just fucking waiting for Adam Gittleman to fucking take the reins. No offense to Drew Adams, great goaltender, but Adam Gittleman, man, like, to me, there was no question. Now we have Water Dogs and Cannons. So second game for the Cannons. We'll start off with them. Thompson and Q, both 4 goals. If you haven't heard me say it already, Q is definitely a pickup. Rabel with 2 goals continues his thrashing. That's 5 goals in 2 games. Hot start for Paul Rabel. Brody Merrill, again, definitely a pickup if you don't have him. 2 calls turnovers, 6 ground balls, a ground ball machine. Guy's a vacuum out there. And then you had Pulver and Dugan, a couple of short sticks, or Dugan in the short stick. 1 calls turnover, 4 ground balls. So pretty decent numbers, especially if you're looking for a short stick. I like Dugan. He really makes some plays out there. And again, Nick Morocco, 11 saves, 7 goals against. Not the greatest numbers, but still, not horrible either. And then Water Dogs and Cannon, Water Dogs. So we have DiNapoli and Sowers with 2 goals apiece. Courier with 2 points. And after that, just a whole bunch of people with 1 point. Rylan Rees had a fucking crazy game. 1 calls turnover, 8 ground balls, and a fucking 2 goal. So he just was absolutely tearing it up. And then a lot of Water Dogs with 4 points, whether it be 2-2, 1-3, 3-1. That defense, I don't know if it's just that they play a lot of defense or if it's that it's good, but definitely some guys who you can pick out of there. And then Withers actually has the reins now because Simonu is now on the Cannons. He did all right, but Withers was definitely that guy. If you're looking for a face-off guy, Withers is definitely your guy to pick up right now. And then Chrome and Redwoods. Redwoods second game of the weekend. So Pinnell 5 points, 2-3. Very great start for Rob Pinnell. Only see that being more consistent as the year goes on. Jules 3-1. Perk had a 2 goal. Cavley and Jones all had 2 points. So some good depth right there if you're really looking for it. Lee, again, I think if he might have been a slept-on guy, especially by me. And then, you have your Pinnell and your Henningbergs who that they're going to kind of rely on. Defense was kind of whatever. No one really stood out. To me, it was Finn Sullivan and Eddie Glazner. Not stellar numbers, 4 points or 3 points, whatever. And early in 54%, not the greatest, but not too bad. Both, he had a winning percentage, so I'll take it. Especially against a mismatch in size against Connor Farrell. And then on the other side with the Chrome, Jordan McIntosh, 4 goals. Love to see that. Modersky on the defensive side, 2 calls turnovers, 5 ground balls. And then Joel White and John Ranigan, both with some good days, both 2 points offensively. I like John Ranigan as a short stick. Short sticks are really sticking out to me for some odd reason. So that's a little bit of a recap of what happened last weekend. Now, 9 minutes in, we will get into my predictions for next week. So we'll go through it team by team, and I'll kind of tell you about where they land. Starting off with the Chaos, they have 2 games this weekend. Teams obviously with 2 games are going to have more fantasy points. So the Chaos play the Water Dogs and the Archers. The locks for me, Blaze Reardon, number 1 goaltender, you play him. Jared Newman, fucking outstanding, you play him. And to me, I really like Dane Smith. I think that you go ahead and play him. I think he's extremely consistent. Maybe you play Adler against the Water Dogs. I think his matchup is decent. Against the Archers, I think he has a good matchup. So if you're really looking for someone, I think that he's a good individual to go to. Moving on to the Water Dogs, they have 2 games as well. They play the Chaos and the Chrome. So locks for me, Michael Sowers for sure, and Rylan Reese for sure. Maybe you play Withers. Not really 100% sure on that one. Chaos, to me, that matchup's kind of 50-50 between Adler and Withers. And then the Chrome, it's not the greatest matchup, but if you're really looking for someone, you could definitely play him. I think that he'll go roughly 50% on the weekend. And then moving on to some teams with a little bit more oomph to them that I really like. The Whip Snakes, obviously you have to play Zeddy Ball game. Zed Williams is a fucking powerhouse. Showed it again, 4 goals in his first contest back after winning MVP. Mike Chanenchuk, assists, points, soon to come 2-pointers. He's just a guy who will be out there. Even though he only had 1 point, Matt Rambo is obviously still a guy that you have to pick up and you have to use and put him in your lineup. Just because he had only 1 goal last game doesn't mean that you can't play him this week. And then Matt Abbott, if you haven't picked him up, I think that he looks pretty decent. He's a good staple on that defensive end. Good numbers in the first game. Wouldn't rush to it too quick. I would maybe give it 1 more game. But I like him if you're really in desperation. And then obviously Earnhardt, a fucking powerhouse. Nards, a fucking powerhouse. Those two, easy to say, those two are locks. Moving on to the Cannons. Cannons play the Whip Snakes. It's gonna be tough for the Cannons in this game. But I do think that they play well offensively. Lyle Thompson is a lock. 3 points in the first game, 4 goals in the second game. Gotta know that he's going to produce. Paul Rabel, I think, just keeps it up after a disappointing 2019 in the team, and a disappointing 2020 individually and in the team. So I think Paul Rabel keeps it up. Q, again, is your pickup. Merrill, again, is your pickup. Both guys. Q's a little bit more of a depth. Merrill could be your number 1. With the fucking ground balls that he gets, he's unreal. Guys who I think are kind of fringe, but I would at least put him on a watch list. Reese Eddy, Garland, Pulver, Dugan, all guys who I think you could pick up, but I wouldn't bounce them too quickly. And Nick Morocco, I really like the way that he played. I thought that he was outstanding in the first game. I thought that he was mediocre in the second game. So overall, he's slightly above average right now. I think if you're really looking for a second goaltender, he could really be a guy. Or if you just didn't get a goaltender that you're really huge in, like an Atlas goaltender who I put fairly high. I put one of my top 3, borderline top 4. I still wouldn't give up on him just yet, but the Atlas is just such a hard team to have faith in. I think Nick Morocco's a good pick if you're looking for some depth or a second goaltender. And then we have the Redwoods playing the Atlas. I mean, this is a money pickup. Pannell is a lock. Have to play him. Jones, to me, 4 points in the first game, 2 points in the second game. He's not a lock, but he's fucking damn near to it. And then as your kind of third, you have that Cavalier Henningberg. To me, Henningberg takes the cake in that one. And then Cav and Lee are kind of neck and neck for that fourth. I think all of them are fantasy viable, especially if you're looking for like a third guy or a flex guy. Overall, I really, really like what they're doing offensively, and the Atlas just are fucking horrible. So, I mean, that's a team to go to. And then we have Garrett Epple and Glaze. Neither guy stood out in both games, but both guys had a decent game apiece. So, to me, I would go Garrett Epple just because he's got the better matchups, and Eddie Glazner's a bit of a orchestrator back there, but I'm not really dying to play either of those guys. TD Erlian I think is a lock if you aren't with Nardella. I think he's definitely your guy to go to. 74% in the first game, fucking outstanding, and then slightly above 500 in the second game. I think that's very good. And it's going to be a tough matchup against Trevor Baptiste. I think he's also a guy that you could play. Just because they did well last week. And, I think both guys have a chance of going 50%. But I'm a Redwoods fan, so I'm going to have to lean towards TD. And then Timmy Troutner, especially against the Atlas. No offense to their offensive weapons, which I'll get into in a second. It won't be a very long list. But I think that Tim Troutner, if you have him on your team and you don't have Reardon, then I think that you could play him personally. Who are the Whip Snakes playing? Whip Snakes are playing the Cannons. Personally, I would play Troutner over. God, I'm blanking on his fucking name. I would play him over the Whip Snakes goaltender, Bernhardt. But that would just be purely fantasy purposes. Moving on to the Atlas, playing against the Redwoods, we have Trevor Baptiste. Again, I think you can use him. I think he'll give you at least a 50%, but that's a tough one to come by. John Crowley had a good first game. I think he had 3 points. I led the team, and then Eric Law is a guy that I can just never rule out. Beyond that, there's not really too much that I really want to get into with the Atlas. Their team is pretty embarrassing. Maybe you could play like a Cade Van Raphorst. I think that he's always a solid pick defensively, but nothing super crazy there. And then coming to our last couple of teams, we have Chrome. They play the Water Dogs. For me, the face-off guy, you could potentially play Farrell. I think it's going to be a tough matchup this week, specifically for face-off guys if you don't have Nardella on your team, because I think most matchups are pretty even. McIntosh is a must-start. 4 goals, got to play him. Guys who didn't perform fantastically the first week, but I'm not ready to give up on them, are obviously guys like Jordan Wolf and Justin Gutterding. Those 2 guys, absolute fucking powerhouses. There was just a lot of balanced scoring for the Chrome that first week against the Redwoods. So no one was really taking the reins, but it was a lot of guys, like one guy with 4 points, a couple guys with 3 points, a lot of guys with 2, and a lot of guys with 1. So, team-wise, you love to see it. Fantasy-wise, sometimes kind of hurts. And then some defensive guys, Joel White, John Rannigan. I really like them. I think that their performance last week against the Redwoods was really good, especially when the Redwoods were playing, as well as they were last weekend. Usually you see them come out to a slow start, which they did against the Cannons, but they picked up fairly quickly. Didn't take them 3 weeks, took them about a quarter. And coming to the hardest one for me, the Archers. You can play the entire offense. You could only play their offense, to be honest. You might still win. Might play. If I had to give it a ranking, it would be Grant Cement at number 1. Tom Schreiber at 2, just because you can never say that he's not going to have a fucking great game. And then this is when it's tough. You could go Fields and McNamara at 3. And I think Mazzone, Manny, and Holman, depends on who have your fucking team, man. But any of them could go off on any night. That's the trouble in this team, is that they're too good at times offensively that you just don't even know who's going to pop off. But my consistencies would definitely be immense. Tom Schreiber, best or second best player in the league. I think you have to also put him in. He's like one of those Rambo situations where he didn't produce last week, but you can't not start him. Scott Ratliff, obviously, for me, is a lock. Graham Hosick, to me, is a pickup if you don't have him, and a lock if you do. And then Adam Gittleman, I think goaltending-wise, if you're not playing Blaze Reardon, then I think you're playing Adam Gittleman. Who do the Archers play? They play the Chaos. I think you can play Adam Gittleman. So, just to run through some big names I really like. Blaze, number 1 goaltender. Zeddy, offensive guy. Rambo, I think you have to play him if you have him. Thompson, have to play him if you have him. Pannell, have to play him if you have him. Those are the offensive guys who really show up to me. Archers, I just ran through their thing. It's like whoever the fuck you have and whoever the fuck you feel, That's almost like a luck of the draw at times, but the Grant Cement is definitely the lock. Face-off wise, I'm not super confident in too many dudes. Maybe Adler, maybe Withers, for sure Nardella. To me, it's a tough one. If they were playing anyone except for each other, more or less, TD Earlian and Trevor Baptiste, if anything, this is a character game for both of them. Both guys are sitting around that 64-63% on the season, even though it's only 2-1 games played. They're sitting at that same spot. It's the young dog against the fucking vet. So we'll see what happens there. Chrome, maybe Farrell, not a huge fan. Against Waterdog, I think that he'll do better against Withers, to be honest. But I can't guarantee anything. And then I'm not a huge fan of Stephen Kelly for the Archers. Defensively, Jared Newman, lock. Michael Earnhardt, lock. Brody Merrill, lock. I really like John Ranigan. Not sure if he'll do it again. Maybe he's a guy you wait a week on. Ratliff, if you don't have Earnhardt, is a lock. If you play goals to count towards the LSMs, then he's the lock. Earnhardt. I mean, that's more of a toss-up, to be honest. It depends on who you really like. I think either way, they both have a fucking hell of a game. And then, what did I just do? Defensively? And then midfielders. I like Dane Smith. I like Channy. Channy, honestly, to me, might be a lock. Rabel, to me, is a lock. Jones, to me, might be a lock. Like I said, team-wise, I'm not a huge fan of him, but when he's out there, I kind of have to give it to him. And then Schreiber is the lock on the Archers. So those are really my main guys. And that's about it for this week, man. Trying to keep it about 10 minutes for the week before, 10 minutes for the week upcoming. Did a pretty decent job of that. I think I was at 9 and 11. Fucking win some fantasy games, baby. Shit.